I wasn't going to run, as I said, after this for president again, and I mean that sincerely. And my son Beau, who was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware, and when one day I came home, I used to commute home because I couldn't afford daycare, I couldn't afford house care, but my mom and her whole family was helping take care of my kids after my wife and daughter were killed, and so I commuted for 36 years on the train. And as I got off the train, I said, my son Beau said to me, "Dad, what are you doing on Friday?" This was on the previous Sunday. And I said, "What do you mean?" "I'd like you to pin my bars on." I said, "Pin your bars on?" "Yeah, Dad." He said, "I joined the National Guard." I said, "You're married, you got 2 kids." And he said, "Dad, but we have to, somebody's got to do this." So he got sent to Iraq for a year. And you're either state property or you're federal property. So you either work for the president or you work for the governor. So he gave up his attorney general's job temporarily when he got deployed to Iraq for a year. The problem was he was only about 300 yards from a burn pit, just like those guys who went on 9/11 into those firefighters. And he came home with stage 4 glioblastoma, and no one makes it. And he died. But before he died, and this relates to how strongly I feel about this, before he died, he said, "Dad, you got to make me a." We were going home because my father had died. My mom had moved in with us, and my wife and I were coming home from Washington on a Friday. And so we lived as the crow flies, just a mile from where son Beau was, but really 2 miles in terms of getting there. So we went over his house for dinner. After dinner, my wife said, "I'm going home and change." It was a Friday afternoon. It was in, I guess, probably, anyway. And Beau turned to his wife and said, "Would you take the kids? I want to talk to Dad." And he said, "Dad, give him my word." He said, "Dad, look at me. We have this thing about Biden. We want to look at me. I'm really serious." And he said, "Dad, I know when I die," we know, I said, "We both know I'm going to die, Dad. I'm going to be okay, though. I'm okay with it, Dad." So you got to make me a promise. You got to make me a promise. I said, "What's the promise, honey?" He said, "Promise me you won't quit. You'll want to quit. You'll want to get out of politics." I said, "Beau," he said, "Dad, promise me. Give me your word as a Biden dad. Look at me, Dad. Look at me." And I gave my word. I had no intention of running again until then. But even then, I didn't think I'd ever run again. I'd stay engaged, but I'd run this after being vice president. And then I saw those folks coming out of the fields in Charlottesville, carrying Nazi swastikas and torches, accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. And Beau had died, and I looked at it, and I knew I had to keep my promise. So that's the only reason I ran again. And I ran because Beau knows, and you know in your heart, every one of you, I've asked you, if Trump wins, this nation changes.
Yes.
There's only 2 things we can do. Guarantee that he doesn't, or if he does, make sure we have the strongest Democratic majority we can get to make sure that